Well, thanks very much, everyone, for coming today. I'd like to welcome you and thank you, Moses, for the opportunity to share my experiences and my knowledge of BIM. What I'm going to talk a little bit about today is best practices, how to avoid the implementation pitfalls, and all this is really coming from my 10, 12 years experience of engagement and involvement with BIM, with implementing BIM in numerous companies across North America and internationally. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. There we go. So, as I said, my name's Scott Chatterton. I'm a digital project delivery specialist. I used to be an implementation specialist for BIM, specifically the Autodesk products. So Revit, at that time, Revit architecture, structural, mechanical. It's all one box now, so we just implement the one platform. I've worked for 3 or 4 companies over my career, and more recently, I'm a member of the board of directors for the Canadian BIM Council. And CanBIM is the voice of the industry in respect to building information modeling across Canada. So we host events across Canada, we write white papers, we support the industry, and we hold a number of conferences across Canada as well. My role with CanBIM is I'm the international chair, and my roles in my work life has also been an international. So I've implemented BIM in Australia, Canada, and been engaged with projects across the world. So my relationship with Africa is quite interesting. I know a number of people there involved with the BIM industry, also a number of people in Germany who have connections and links back to Africa. So I'm working with those people to help support the adoption and integration of BIM throughout the African continent. A little bit more background. I'm an Autodesk Elite member. I've got my certification for building performance analysis. I'm CanBIM Certified Professional 1. I'm certified Revit user, but that was in 2014. And I've got a blog called the BIM Jedi, which talks about BIM, the aspects of BIM, and tips and tricks around the utilization of the platform. Right now, my main focus is workflow analysis. So the implementation and the need to change the workflow around BIM, implementation, change management, and the impact that BIM has on the operations of a company, and the strategic planning associated with BIM. So as many of you know about building information modeling, but I just wanted to give a quick overview and quick refresher for some of you that may be new to BIM. So BIM, building information modeling, is really the central source of data and information for the project, for our built environment. So using building information modeling software, and for me that means Revit architecture or AutoCAD architecture. It's those are the platforms that I'm more familiar with, so I'll probably refer to those more than anything else. What we've seen in North America with the adoption of BIM is, and this varies from country to country, is it was first adopted, and one of the driving factors was through the design industry. So the architects and the designers were using BIM, but purely for selfish reasons. They were using BIM because it helped them design faster, more efficiently, and more effectively. They saw the benefits. The structural MEP engineers saw the benefits, started utilizing BIM as well. They started collaborating together, engaging civil. promoting this obviously to the owners for visualization, portraying and getting the design intent across to the owners. More recently, probably over the last 5 years, the contractors have picked up BIM, and we've seen a spike in adoption and implementation around BIM, mainly because of the contractors driving the adoption and the use of BIM. So we had early adoption, it plateaued, and now we're seeing a spike in adoption again, mainly due to the builders and the contractors driving the industry again. So over the last few years, we've seen a great deal of innovation around the platforms of building information modeling, the software, and more importantly, the utilization of BIM. And we'll talk a little bit more about utilization as we go through the presentation today. So BIM allows us to collaborate and coordinate and communicate together for the benefit of the project, utilizing building information modeling. Accuracy is a huge bonus of utilizing BIM because we're able to virtually digitally build the building. We can improve accuracy, visualization, simulation and analysis, so building performance analysis, how the building's going to perform, how efficient the building's going to be. We can get our design intent across to the customers, our clients, a lot more effectively. And as we've seen with the contractors, they can do cost analysis more efficiently and more effectively, and also speed up construction. So what we've seen in North America is majority of projects are now have a tighter budget, a tighter deadline, and the demands of the client have increased. So our industry is really being driven by those three aspects. So now, utilizing BIM, we are able to deliver projects faster and more economically with reduced impact through reduced waste, more efficiency in the building materials, and more efficiency in how we utilize those materials for the construction of the building. So that was a little bit about BIM. I want to talk a little bit about the global perspective of BIM adoption and the different aspects that have been the driving factors around the adoption of BIM globally. So being in Canada and North America, I think in North America, we like to say that BIM started here, it didn't. Companies, Nemetschek companies like ArchiCAD, those types of companies from Europe really started doing BIM a lot earlier than when Revit was started up. And that, to me, and I could be wrong here, but this is my opinion, to me, the driving factor there was the social pressures. So the demand for more effective, more efficient housing, more efficient buildings, and more efficient construction processes. In North America, we've got a lot of space, we've got a lot of resources, so the demand wasn't there as much. Really, the demand for us was the utilization of the platform so we can do things more efficiently. So we've been very successful in North America with BIM adoption. Majority of our projects, of our large-scale projects, are in BIM. I don't know of too many that are not. And I think that has trickled out now throughout the rest of the world. Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, the Asia Pacific are all well placed in BIM. Europe is well placed in BIM, with possibly the exception of Germany, who, as a enclosed industry, are starting to phase in the introduction of BIM now, and it is being adopted very rapidly. They're able to draw upon resources from the northern countries, Norway, Sweden, Finland, the UK, since they've had a mandate around BIM, has really spiked in education and utilization. And the Netherlands have been using Open BIM since 2012. So it's really taken off around the globe. One of the aspects that I've talked to with people working across the world in the industry is the file exchange, sharing information, sharing models, doing it in a manner that is efficient and effective. So utilizing the cloud has really become more popular, so we can effectively communicate our designs and our model files a lot more efficiently and effectively than before. Yeah, so that was a little bit about BIM globally. And I'm happy to be a part of supporting Africa in their BIM adoption and their BIM progress. So this is an old statistic, 2012, but you can see here how rapidly adoption in North America was picked up. Since 2007, only 28% of projects were done utilizing BIM, and in 2012 we're at 71. I think now at 2018, 2019, we're probably closer to the high 80s, if not the mid 90s. So you can see now how rapidly that has done. And really, I would not be surprised if your growth emulated this statistic and how rapidly it evolved. I think a lot of the rate of adoption came from the need for change within our industry, the need to generate and create more efficient, more effective buildings in a more economical manner. But the other factor too was education, having access to resources for education, whether that's through the software vendor, whether that's through the software vendor's resellers, making training available. And then what we've seen probably in the last 5 or 6 years is integration now into schools, into higher education schools. So having university talk about BIM, having some of the colleges hold BIM classes, and having more access to the online resources around BIM as well. It's quite the industry in just supporting BIM. And that's what I do. I go around and I talk to universities and colleges. I'm on an advisory board for a number of local universities where we've changed the curriculum and updated the curriculum to include either courses in BIM, training in the BIM platform software, or just discussion and education around BIM. So that has been some of the driving factors for why we've seen such a rapid rise in the adoption of BIM in North America. I think this is probably reflective of the Asia Pacific, of Australia, and parts of Europe. In the UK, it probably was more rapid, due mainly to their introduction of a BIM mandate. So globally, what were some of the impacts around that and some of the spin-off that what we've seen? So it's accelerated globalization. So the ability to communicate now using the language of BIM has been instrumental in us being able to work internationally. So I've been involved with projects in South America, in Germany, in Australia, in Europe, and the Middle East and Asia. And even though we have a language barrier, BIM is universal and it crosses that language barrier. So sharing those models with other people allows us to communicate the design more effectively. Urbanization, as globally as opportunities start to focus, we have in certain areas, we've seen an increase in population. So the demand for effective and efficient housing has increased. And we've seen that in certain areas of Europe, where the demand, and even in North America now with the centralization of our cities, the current generations of occupants are really looking for a more efficient and socially responsible housing. So they're actually demanding this from their clients. And the one way we can do that is provide them with, utilizing BIM to provide them with a more intelligent built environment. Global growth, capital investors looking to profit from this is certainly a driving factor. The war for talent, and we've seen this in all of the developing BIM cultures, is hiring and keeping skilled staff is challenging. You know, we would train staff in Germany and they would be poached. They would be taken away by other companies because of their skill sets that we're developing. So that's changing how the demographics of our workforce look like, who's learning these skills and who's emerging as being leaders in the industry for these skills. Construction companies, as I mentioned before, are really emerging and developing this market and also developing their own talent. So we're seeing virtual design construction leaders, VDC leaders in construction, BIM managers in design, and then the quantification and the estimation industry are really picking up on it. Energy needs, so the social aspect of BIM, creating more efficient, more habitable built environment is a huge driving factor. We're all socially responsible for our environment now. And technology innovations, utilizing the smart buildings and the smart cities to improve how responsive the building is to our needs, which all then ties back to sustainability. So managing waste, managing our water resources, managing our accessibility to public and social needs is a huge factor around the global driving factors around BIM. So sustainable transportation infrastructure, for example, linking these building information models, so our BIM, our design BIM, with the city, so then they can plan and strategize for city growth. We're seeing the rapid growth of smart cities, the utilization of BIM in the development process, and all of that is really supporting all 7 of these aspects. So that is what I've seen over the last 10 or 12 years that I've been associated with BIM. So the need for change. Really, this has been the driving factors for the adoption of BIM, is why we need to change, what are the driving factors around change, and how we have addressed them has been key. So competition, that's always a driving factor for BIM adoption, providing additional services for minimal additional cost, so value added services. Having a competitive advantage, so being able to provide additional service at minimal cost above your competition, and then promoting that. And a lot of what we saw earlier is a lot of these advantages were really low picking fruit. It was very easy to achieve these. As I've been involved with implementation, I've seen a number of companies that have missed the boat, right? That have not got on board with BIM, have thought it was a fad, didn't want to invest in their growth, and have subsequently either dissolved or have been acquired because of their need for growth, and they've actually had to close their doors. Attract talent, that has been very challenging, attracting and retaining staff. So we've had to improve how our pay structure and the benefits around the culture of the industry. Utilization, that's the return on investment is key, right? So utilizing your investment in the platform and your investment in the staff. So, you know, when I first started implementing Revit, I saw a number of companies that were using BIM platforms for basic design. They weren't using schedules. They weren't collaborating with other companies. They weren't utilizing the power of BIM that was easily and readily available at their fingertips. And therefore, they're only utilizing maybe 40 or 45% of their investment in the platform. So return on investment, want to maximize that the investment that you've put in learning not only the software, but the whole platform itself. So utilization, workflow efficiency, and being able to do more with less. And that has been a key element more recently, is managing our teams so we can actually provide more. The industry demands, so client demands and the project demands. I've been involved with a number of healthcare projects that are very complex, very large, and have many, many moving parts and many people involved. So being able to manage a project of that scope requires collaboration, coordination, and information. And BIM enables us to do that. And social responsibility is a driving factor, right? Being responsible for our constructed environment, including building performance, minimizing waste, occupancy, comfort. So being able to manage and control the built environment for the habitants of the building is key. So that's some of the driving factors around what has been some of the key elements in the need for adoption of BIM. One of the challenges that we've had is Martek's law, which is as technology changes and grows, organizations have a tough time in adapting and keeping up with the technology changes. And it's a seesaw effect, and it's a bit of a challenge. You don't want to go too far into the cutting edge, but you don't want to be left too far behind. So what we've seen is that balancing act, and we really need to take advantage of that. It's challenging in our industry. It's a very traditional industry. It's been around for many, many years, and the traditional approach of design, pass on to the consultants, pass that on, has been very siloed, very isolated steps, and the industry has changed. It's not isolated anymore. The approach of the master builder has deteriorated, but I'd like to see that come back. And we've seen different aspects of the project team take on unique roles they're probably traditionally not used to. So I want to give you a couple of examples of companies that have not really succeeded well in doing this. So Kodak, right, the film company, 1976, 85% of all film cameras at the time were Kodaks, right? Everybody had a camera, and it was probably a Kodak camera. 90% of all of the film sold in the US was Kodak film, Kodachrome. Now, as the digital age evolved and came into being and we started using more digital cameras, Kodak didn't get on board fast enough. And frankly, in 2012, they were forced into bankruptcy. So they were unable to keep up with the demand of the technology and the social demand of technology. Individuals adopt technology faster than companies do, right? Their agility in understanding and learning and adopting technology is a lot quicker. Another example is in North America, it was popular, a company called Blockbuster, and they rented video cassettes. Movies, you can go get a movie for the evening. In 2013, they had they ceased operations in 2013. They were a huge company, and I think within a year they had to close their doors because it was superseded by digital media. So this is a challenge that we have. We need to be able to change and adapt quicker and easier. We need to basically reset an organization and restructure our resources and our adoption of technology according to the needs of the industry. And we have to do that before we get too far behind and we miss the boat, frankly. And I've seen companies do that. Now, some example of companies that have been able to do this, Netflix. Netflix started out as renting DVDs as a mail service. And currently Netflix online subscription is around 75 million people in 50 different countries. So they were able to see the changes that were happening in their industry and make changes accordingly. PayPal are doing the same. They're looking at newer payment markets, online payment processes such as Uber and Airbnb. So they're exploring new opportunities. So that's really what I've seen within our industry is what's been happening is these companies have been able to recognize the need for change. More importantly, have been willing to invest in their need for change, and that has really been critical. If you're not willing to invest in the future, then you're bound to stay where you are and repeat the past. So BIM and the business model, some of the aspects that we've seen as benefits around utilizing BIM. So winning more business. So the early adopters of BIM were able to get their design intent across to their customers and their clients a lot easier and a lot quicker. They were able to win more business. They were able to be innovative in their designs. So with building information modeling, the ability to try unique designs, being able to explore design options a lot quicker, a lot faster, and more efficiently, and then portray that information and get approval and sign off a lot quicker to their clients has been key. Improving cost forecasting, that's critical in today's economic environment where we need to be more diligent in how we cost these projects and the result and be consistent in the result of the costing. Coordinating with consultants and trades, that really comes back to quality control and quality insurance, making sure that everybody is coordinating together the models allows us less errors, less site construction or site changes that need to be required. We're able to do all of that before breaking of ground. So, and then delivery on time under pressure, right? As I mentioned before, all projects now have a tighter budget, tighter deadline, and tighter demands or more demands. So being able to deliver those is key. Those are the business values that we've seen the benefits of BIM. For construction, in North America, what we've seen is 30% of the cost of construction ends up as waste in the field. So that's due to a number of aspects, coordination errors, so not being able to coordinate effectively, waste of materials. So just the typical waste, and actually the overestimating of materials, because it ends up either getting thrown out or leaves the site. Labor inefficiencies, not coordinating your team, not having your team be efficient in their tasks and duties and responsibilities. And I'll talk a little bit about that and how BIM impacts that. And other problems in the current construction approach. So once again, we're talking about a traditional approach that needs to change because of the impact of technology. So how do we avoid the pitfalls typical with BIM adoption? And I've seen this, and I've explained this to a number of people when I implement BIM, is look out for these key aspects. The main one that I come across is it's not a traditional workflow, right? BIM is not CAD, where in CAD, and I've done both, I've gone from hand drawing to AutoCAD architecture, utilizing BIM to build BIM platforms. So I understand the traditional workflow and understand the challenges around it, and really it comes down to stepping outside of your comfort zone and encouraging leaders of these companies to step outside of their comfort zone, right? The conventional CAD method is make changes on the floor plan, reflect those changes in the elevations, the sections, and the details. With bidirectional associativity with BIM, you update the model and it updates all aspects, the elevations, the sections. You will have to update the details, but the plans, everything else is done because you're working off of one central model. So that can be a challenge, right? I've had architects that come to me and go, well, you know, these Revit drawings don't look like my drawings that I produce. And I said, well, don't try and change it because you're just going to give yourself headaches, right? Giving the leaders, the designers and the architects confidence that BIM will create a complete, concise set of drawings without getting bogged down into the aesthetics and their personal signature of the style of the drawings has certainly been a challenge. BIM is not software, so it's not just focused on one platform. It's building information modeling. So it's the data that we put into it that is the key. It's not restrictive. Doesn't matter if you're building a garden shed or a $100 million hospital. It's not restrictive. The technological demands, we're utilizing more software and computing power around it. When I first started integrating BIM, sometimes it would require a whole new computer system. So they would have to scrap all of their computers and bring in new systems because their old computers couldn't handle the software. People's skills and knowledge, training, and I'll talk more about this a little bit later, training and sharing of knowledge is key. Enabling your staff to learn and to utilize and learn the platform is the only way that you're really going to be successful in adoption. And then recognizing that BIM changes the whole process. So our traditional process, trying to integrate BIM into a traditional process doesn't work. We have to really look at the whole flow of operations of an organization and how BIM impacts it. And in summary, it involves an investment in time and money. Those are the key aspects. So the pitfalls of BIM adoption, avoiding them, is not preparing the staff. So having your staff be aware that this is a firm-wide initiative, giving them permission to learn, and with an understanding that, you know, when they first start on these Revit projects, that learning curve, they are not going to be as efficient as what they were on the previous platform. And that's my background. I was a technician for many years, and changing the tools that you use, you lose your efficiency until you become efficient in that new tool. And that's daunting for a lot of technicians. They're not comfortable with that because their focus is always efficiency and speed. So leadership and management need to give them permission to learn. Underestimating of time, it takes time for true BIM adoption. It took me a couple of years before we had the whole firm up and running at a super efficient level where everybody was very highly capable in BIM. It takes time. And you have to do it incrementally. Start with a small team, spread that team over other teams so they can share their knowledge. Underestimating capabilities. So instead of just generating a set of drawings, you're not fully utilizing the full capabilities of BIM. So visualization aspect, the quantification, the sharing, the collaboration often gets missed because they're not thinking in a BIM approach. Leadership, it has to come from the top down. So if leadership are not supportive of the transition to BIM, it's doomed to failure. The reason being is that leadership really drive the culture around BIM, and if they're not promoting BIM, it's not going to succeed. If they're not promoting BIM to your clients, that's another thing as well, because their clients need to be able to sell the benefits of BIM to the clients. Not building the right team, both internally and externally. It's great if you're on BIM and you're doing BIM projects, but if you're working with consultants that are still using CAD or still using non-BIM platform, it's really inhibiting your ability to utilize BIM and deliver an effective project. So that's key, getting the right team on board externally, and then having the right team internally, having people that are not afraid of change, that are willing to adopt BIM. And finally, uneducated clients expecting the moon. So, you know, they talk about BIM and they're saying, I want a clash-free model, I want full estimation, and really at the early stages that's not realistic. There still are going to be some coordination issues. There always are. It's part of construction. We're always developing and building prototypes, so we are always going to see errors. It's not a perfect process. Design is messy, right? The design process is a messy process. So through that mess, we are going to see some errors and pitfalls. So as long as we are aware that this will be, I don't want to say an issue, but it will be a concern, we can anticipate it and we can mitigate the impact of that risk. So how to implement BIM successfully? Education is the key. So educating your staff, educating your firm, from everybody from reception to the managing principal. They all need to know about BIM. They all need to know that this is the new driving aspect for the company. Hold workshops, lunch and learns, inform them what BIM exactly is and how it works. Show them the basics of the tools that they're going to be using. Show them what it looks like, give them a much better understanding. Share that information with your clients. So let your clients know what you're capable of and the benefits of hiring you because you are a BIM-enabled firm. So that's key. Sell your skills. Sell your benefits of utilizing BIM. From an owner's standpoint, there's benefits. So the ability to track their model, the efficiency in construction, which really it all comes down to dollars, efficiency in managing and maintaining the project and the building after construction. Inform your contractors of the benefits as well. So if your contractors are not utilizing BIM, if your trades are not utilizing BIM, and your suppliers, tell them that you're doing it. Earlier on when we did BIM adoption here, it was siloed and isolated, and we weren't getting the word out. And then eventually what we saw was maybe the door supplier was coming to us and going, you know, I don't know if you guys use BIM, but we have these families. And then we tell them, oh, we've been using BIM for 3 or 4 years. We never communicated that to them. The more we can communicate that we're adopting this, the more people that we will see that are able to support us in resources, in materials, and in information that we need for the BIM. So that comes back to inform your consultants. If you're using Revit, encourage them to use Revit. And I've even gone to the point of embedding one of my staff members on key projects into the consultant's firm just to support and help them in their utilization of Revit. Because it was beneficial for us for them to be able to do this properly. So invest in your people. Training is key. You need to train your staff because the tools are really what amplify our capabilities. If your staff are skilled on how we use our tools, then you will maximize your ROI on the investment. Make everyone a Revit rockstar. That was my goal with the last company. Is I wanted everybody, essentially I wanted to work myself out of a job. I wanted everyone to be confident and capable in the platform. That helps with retention, right? Giving them a means to learn and grow and progress encourages staff to stay because they see a future in it. It's part of their personal development and their growth. And you're gaining the return on investment of staff, software, process, and an improvement in quality control. So methods of imparting this knowledge, blog, emails. If I can mute that person there. There we go. Email, social media, all of those different aspects is a way of sharing and imparting your knowledge across the company or across the firm. Train in-house or outsourcing. Personally, I was able to train in-house because I've got a background in training the platform. If you don't source out good quality training and instructions, and on-demand training, there's a great deal of e-learning platforms out there. One that comes to mind is a company called Global E. They do a fantastic job of providing an e-learning platform that people can quickly and easily source out and troubleshoot the issues that they're coming across, as well as learning the platform in general. And it's on-demand training. So if they're having an issue with the roof, they can go to the platform, sign in, find the answer to their problem, address it, and move on. So that's on-demand training. Schedule regular training sessions. What I found was I would schedule regular lunch and learns. It may have been once a month. I would pick a simple topic. I would have an hour for lunch. I would pick a simple topic that would maybe last 5, 10, 15 minutes, give them a handout, and then open up the floor to questions. And what I found was I wasn't the person who was leading these sessions. It was a group, it was a team effort. So what would occur was somebody would come to these sessions, say, I'm having an issue with this aspect of my model. Somebody else would say, well, I ran into that on my last project. This is how I resolved it. So you're really creating and developing a culture around BIM and a culture of sharing information and knowledge. So presentation style, so like this, a PowerPoint, a lab session where you're in front of computers doing exercises, or roundtable sessions where you're sitting and chatting and discussing some of the issues that you have. All three of these help with that culture of BIM and BIM integration into your company. So who do you educate? You need to educate everyone. It's all levels of Revit users, from fundamentals intermediate users, and advanced users. Educate the partners, the associates, the architects, your consultants, everyone. Hold public sessions. One of the successful methods that I used to share this information was I started a user group, a local user group. And we got people together to talk about these issues and help spread the word and help share that information with leadership and with the consultants. So that was a huge benefit. But what I did in the firm that I worked for was we had a whole staff meeting and we talked about, this is the direction that we're going with BIM. This is what it does. This is what it looks like. And it informed everyone of what it could do. How to implement BIM successfully. Develop an implementation plan that helps you process and facilitate BIM into your daily workflow. So aside from your workflow, as project specific, you need a BIM project execution plan. There's some great resources online that help you with that. Team structure, roles and responsibilities, and I'll talk more about that. That was key in the successful utilization of BIM, having each team member know and understand their role and responsibilities. Having collaboration meetings, not communicating just on the phone or via email, but sitting down face to face with the BIM leaders of each of the projects was key. And then utilization of tools. So not just your BIM platform, but all of the add-on tools that come along with it. So being able to utilize that, and we'll cover that as well. So a fully collaborative project, whether that's internal, whether that's isolated, or whether that's as a open BIM and shared with everyone, can really improve efficiency, which results in savings of time, which results in saving of money. So you can increase your profitability by implementing BIM successfully. So project execution planning, it's crucial to the success of a project to have a clearly defined plan. So identifying what the BIM uses will be. So will this be used for, there's 4 key elements that we know it will be used for. Design documentation, so creating a set of drawings. Coordination with the consultant, so we create a correct set of drawings. Design review, so reviewing the design with everyone. And I forgot what the 4th was. And then portraying the design intent to the contractor. So not the visualization aspect, but being able to clearly show them, whether that's through the use of virtual reality, stereoscopic images, renderings, those aspects. So define what the BIM uses are, define what the level of development is, what the LOD, and understanding what impact the selection of LOD has. And the content, making sure you've got clearly identifiable, efficient content is crucial as well. Manage your content. Have somebody take the lead on your content management and make sure the content is clean, efficient and effective, and consistent throughout the whole organization or all projects. And then finally, data management of a project. It's not just the development of a design and a model. It's all of the data now that gets pushed into the model so we can extract it during the construction process. So data includes your room schedules, your room name and numbers, your equipment list, equipment type, your doors, your windows, materials that you use. All of that is data that can be extracted out, and really that's the I in BIM. It's the building information that's contained within the model that we can utilize. So We need really good information in so we can extract really good information out. Defining the project demands. Not all projects demand a high level of coordination. Not all projects demand a high LOD. An example of one that doesn't is I've done office high-rise, which are basic shell floors with no ceilings. It's all exposed content and everything else. And they're just stacked floors. So it's very simple. And the flip side of that is a hospital where if you peel off the ceiling, it is packed full of stuff. It's got HVAC, med gas, supports for the chairlift, so much information and coordination that's required around these. So the deliverables are keys, and understanding what those deliverables are. So one thing that I did is when I first started implementing BIM, I quickly realized that we lost efficiency due to undefined roles in the project. So people were working on aspects of the project that maybe overlapped with somebody else. Excuse me. So what I did was we defined and identified specific roles in the project. So we had the project architect, we had the job captain, then I had a BIM captain or a BIM lead who would manage the team, a detail captain who would manage the details generated from the model, and then your project Revit technicians. So by doing that, if somebody wanted content, they knew who to go to. If somebody had an issue with a detail, or the BIM captain would define who's doing what building sections by clearly identifying them and giving people responsibilities. It created efficiency. They would come to work in the morning, they were able to sit down and clearly identify what they needed to do that day. They weren't thinking about what they had to do, they knew exactly what they had to do, so it was a lot more efficient. We would have regular team meetings every week. We would hold people accountable. We would ask them what they intend to get done that week, and if they didn't get it done, why. And quite often the answer was, well, I'm being held up by so-and-so from engineering, or one of the consultants isn't getting me the information back, which is great information to have, because then the project architect can then go chase that information up instead of the technician just simply waiting for it. So roles and responsibilities need to be defined, the team structure of the project. Multiple roles can be assigned to specific people. So on a smaller project, you may only have 3 or 4 people. They can take on multiple roles as long as those roles are defined. And then redefining these roles and the team members as the project grows. So as things evolve, as things progress on the project, understanding that the need for assigning these roles will and may grow with the project as well. So that was key to our success on projects. And what that enabled us to do was have smaller teams on projects. So on projects, hospitals that maybe had 7 or 8 people, we could do with 6. And we could do it more efficiently and more effectively because the team understood what they had to do. So we talk about tools and some of the tools that amplify our capabilities. Here's an example of some of the add-ons that are available that help BIM managers and some of the technicians achieve what they need to achieve. So explore these tools, decide which ones you want to use, and then implement them across the firm. And implementation comes down to being prepared and communicate. So understanding the skill sets and knowledge of your staff, filling the gaps of what they don't know. So once you've identified those gaps, providing them with the resources to learn them. Identify your key members, your rock stars that take a leadership role around BIM, and then establish a production workflow. That has really been key, is identifying and modifying and changing the workflow according to the adoption of BIM. Communication includes the BIM execution plan, identifying the LOD, the BIM uses, etc., and then setting up and holding regular coordination meetings. The changes of culture and the challenges around implementing BIM, we have to change the culture. It's a very traditional industry with a very traditional approach. So changing that culture and changing the culture of an organization, of an office, has really been instrumental in the success of adoption of BIM. So training and education is key to that. Well, I've had success with the ADCAR method of raising awareness, creating a desire to change, providing them with the knowledge and then the ability to learn, and then reinforcement, going back and enforcing that. Constantly reassessing the need and their growth, right? You don't just do it once and then forget about it. It's an ongoing process. And all that is communication. Communication at all levels of the organization. People need to know that leadership are on board with this and that they encourage the adoption of this. And then providing that support mechanism, not allowing people to fail due to insufficient support. And what you'll find is if you provide the support, people are confident then to move forward, and quite often they don't draw upon the support. It's just reassuring for them to know that it's there. So some of the lessons learned that I have is success through sharing of knowledge, right? Providing a platform where people can share their knowledge and communicate with others has been really critical. Enabling staff to learn, so giving them permission to learn. It gives you the ability to build strength within your organization. Planning, a good plan helps us manage resources, time, and expectations. So whether that's your project BIM execution plan, your BIM integration strategy, your future next 5-year plan for the organization. It gives everyone a clear path. And only manage what you can manage. Sometimes there's aspects that are out of your control. Take them in your stride, do what you can, and aim to do better next time. That has been the motto of one of my mentors, is how can we do it better? So looking at your past experiences, I would do project retrospectives. I would sit down with the team. I'd tell them, leave your title at the door, come into this office and we're all equal. Share with me your thoughts and the issues that you had on this project. And from that, we would develop a lessons learned catalog and avoid the pitfalls in the next project. So our goal really is learning step by step. Let's get to one aspect of BIM before we can move on to something bigger and better. So let's get to the moon first before we see if we can get to Mars, right? We need those baby steps, those learning steps, before we can really take on those big challenges around BIM. If you try and get everybody up to speed too fast or implement too much, frankly, it just becomes overwhelming and people really struggle with the change and the adoption of it. So some of the key takeaways, it's a competitive advantage to adopting BIM. An enhanced process of workflow involves delivering our projects using the applied technologies that we have. We see efficiency in utilization, value added services, leveraging the resources that we have available, and the return on the investment that we've had in our applications and our staff. And the improved quality, QA/QC, the ability to produce a better product is key as well. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much. Here's my contact information. I am open for questions, and I believe each one of you has access to mute or unmute yourself. So feel free to ask any questions or send it through the chat dialog box. Moses, if you're there, I'll hand it back over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Scott, for the insightful presentation. I'm sure we've learned a lot from your one-hour presentation. So I'm sure some of us might have some questions to ask, so you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sure.
And ask some questions.
So once again, thanks for the opportunity. I certainly appreciate sharing my knowledge. People can always reach out to me via email or LinkedIn. Due to the time change, it can be challenging for phone calls. It's 9 o'clock in the morning here. And if you check out my blog, I have lots of information there on Revit, on useful tips, on all of the information that you see here today during the slide presentation. I've probably written a blog post about it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I also actually have a question to ask.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, you know, we in Africa currently, we are still a bit, you know, we've not adopted BIM as much as has been seen in UK and other parts of the world. So
yep.
If you were to start again to adopt BIM as a country or as a state, what tips or advice do you have for us to kind of fast track that process? Or what mistakes have you made that you would probably want to avoid if you were to start again? You know, like advice for us.
Yeah. Oh boy. So one thing that that was beneficial for us was using a set of standards, and there were a number of aspects that were instrumental in that. The Pennsylvania State University did a great deal of work on developing the BIM execution plan. So pinning down how things were being done and the development of a plan or a strategy for BIM on a project, that was instrumental. So in that way, everybody was on board with what they knew they had to achieve, and through the level of development, understanding of the BIM deliverables. The other aspect was content, right? Having access to content, simple content that we could use, and consistency. So using that content throughout the project life and on other projects, and having a good infrastructure then for your team. So having templates set up that were consistent, having styles set up that were consistent. So at least your organization was consistent in the deliverable of the BIM, and then sharing it. You know, in AutoCAD, I know we were always reluctant to share our drawings. My approach has always been to hand it all out, right? The more we can share information and share content and share experiences, the more successful we all will be in the adoption of BIM. So I was always one to, you know, if you want to see my template, I'll give it to you, right? If you want some of the content that I have in my model, let me know and I'll send it to you. I was always happy to share that information, just for the benefit of the industry. So hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Chris, can we have your question?
Oh, yes. Okay. Good day, Mr. Scott.
Thank you.
Okay. You quite a bit addressed some of the things I wanted to ask concerning sharing information and stuff. Because I know here in Africa, one of
Yeah.
our biggest challenges is sharing information. We some form of tend to hold information a lot, and it's
Yeah.
hampering development to a very large extent. Okay, my question is how did you deal with um, management in terms of trying to convince them to
Yeah.
kind of buy the idea of being, let them just agree that, okay, this is what BIM is, these are the benefits of BIM
Yeah.
in terms of adopting it office wide. How did you deal with that? That's one.
Yeah.
Secondly, okay, you want to address that before I continue?
Sure. Yeah. While it's fresh in my mind, I will. So the adoption of BIM in regards to management is a different approach to the adoption of BIM for your production staff. Management are focused on economics. So if it's financially viable for them to do it, they'll do it. Your production staff is, we're going to do this and we're going to do it efficiently and effectively. Leadership and management want to know that their investment on this is going to pay off. So showing to them the efficiency and how much it'll save them, the mitigation of errors. So the minimization of risk and the mitigation of risk is a huge factor. And the competitive advantage over their competition. So being able to quickly and easily generate renderings or visualization is something that the competition doesn't do, for as an example. So that's your focus, is what's the return on investment, how quickly can you achieve that return on investment, and what are the benefits of that are going to impact investment, right? Mitigation of risk, competitive advantage, retention of staff, utilization of staff, which means saving money. So those are the approaches that you really have to address and approach your leadership in that manner.
Okay, so if I to take away something from what you've explained, it's trying to develop some form of metrics to
Yeah.
convey the idea of BIM and its benefits to the management.
Yes. Yeah, and metrics can be challenging. I struggle with it. I even struggle with it today because every project is unique in a prototype, and really our process is always evolving. So it's tough to compare this project that we did in BIM to this project that we did last year in BIM, because they're just too different.
Okay, now I think the metrics is just for a start, more like a general overview of how efficiency due to the implementation of BIM could actually bring higher returns to the management.
Yep.
Okay. So my next question is in terms of knowledge sharing.
Mm-hmm.
How were you able to deal with sharing of knowledge, not just office-wide, but in terms of with peers and with other trades? Because I heard you mention at some point you had to send your staff to the other trades, sit in the office and then help them.
Yeah.
What was the challenge? Was it because one of the challenges, we must be truthful. One of the challenges you have here is you know BIM, you know the benefits, but the other person the other consultant may not have even heard of it at all. So it will be one of the feedbacks I get is those other people don't do it. So why should we be the one, informing it or starting it at all? So let's just revert back to our traditional behavior.
Yeah. You were breaking up a little bit there, so I didn't get quite all of your question, but from what I can gather is the challenges of that communication aspect. It's
yes, communication, knowledge sharing.
Yeah, and it's certainly a challenge. One, what I did, I approached this from a number of different ways. And you have to, you can't just have one method of communicating, because frankly, people get sick of it. If you do it just through emails, people will just start ignoring it. Or just do regular, weekly sessions, people will just lose interest and not go anymore. So I had to mix it up. I found my blog to be a good way to communicate with staff, and really that was the intent of starting it. I was teaching at the time, and I wanted a central location that I could keep this information, that then I could refer people to gain it, to gather it, or receive that information. So it was one location where I could post it and people could go back to it. And as I taught different people or taught different classes, I would go, oh, you've run into this issue. I wrote a blog about this, go to this posting, and then you'll get more information from it.
Okay.
That was one way that was successful. User groups were great. So whether they were local user groups in your town, in your city, they were great. And what I would do is I would go to different user groups and talk to them about certain things, and mixing them up, having different people present. Once again, that's part of the culture around BIM. And then a number of years ago, I joined the Canadian BIM Council, and you have this in BIM Africa, using that as a platform then to share beyond your region. So as a nation, sharing that information using one voice or a voice for the industry. That was instrumental. From that, we had committees that set up and developed resources. So content, simple templates for people to use to help them start off BIM. Guides for new BIM adoption. All of that we developed and pushed through the Canadian BIM Council and promoted to our membership. And that was beneficial for the industry. And then as time progressed, we didn't need that anymore. So it kind of fell by the wayside, and then we started looking at what they needed next. And that evolved into the utilization of BIM, the use of technology around BIM. So it's a really stepped process from sitting down one-on-one with individuals all the way through to national promotion of BIM.
Okay. Lastly, what my last question is, what would be your advice for someone who is looking up to becoming a BIM manager, probably?
Yeah, good question. To become a BIM manager takes a number of different things. You don't have to be an expert in BIM to be a BIM manager. And I know that kind of sounds counterintuitive. What you need is the leadership skills. Right, as I progressed in my career, I lost my Revit skills, right, because I wasn't daily into the platform. But I knew what the capabilities were, and I knew the individuals that were the power users of the platform. So I could identify people who could address other people's issues. And I could lead a team by identifying the weaknesses in the project and the weaknesses in the team and addressing them. So being a BIM manager, yeah, you need to know the platform, you need to know the capabilities, you also need to know the capabilities of your staff, so then you can assign and delegate responsibilities and tasks to the right people. So that was mine. It was putting my hand up saying, I'll do this, I'll take on this role, and then modeling your way through it. The other thing too is there's a couple courses out there and certifications that you can take. CANBIM has an international certification program at each different level. So you can, once you get to a certain level, you can then be identified for your skills. There's another course in Spain, I believe it's from Ziggurat, that has BIM courses as well, BIM management courses. So, you know, a BIM manager is responsible for the project execution plan, the coordination meetings, understanding all aspects of BIM. So read up on the job descriptions and start taking on those responsibilities. And then you'll evolve and develop into a BIM manager.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good. I think we're well over time.
Yeah. Thank you once again, Mr. Scott. I don't know if any other person has any question to ask.
If there are any questions, feel free to send me an email. I'm more than happy to answer any questions via email or connect with me on LinkedIn. And check out my blog. There may be some relevant information there that you can utilize as well.
All right, Scott. Thank you once again for your time, for making our time to educate us today on BIM. We look forward to hearing more from you on BIM Africa and Africa generally.
Right on. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.